Good morning, good evening. Good evening. I wanted to come on here with my paid actors, aka a studio audience in the background, and just talking about just kind of the background of this series, right? So, this series, I will tell you, and I don't have anything written down, but I will do my best to keep it brief. One thing that this series is not designed to do is not designed to diagnose. So if you are experiencing any type of mental health complications or issues that have presented itself, please certainly seek the guidance of a health professional, a credentialed professional to be able to help you with diagnosis and addressing symptoms that you may have had. Now that we got this disclaimer out the way, let's talk burnout and a little bit of maybe depression and anxiety. But I'm here to discuss how burnout has manifested in my life, right? And it is very tricky. It's very tricky, and there's a couple of things we need to address just as just as someone who's also a believer when we're addressing burnout. Me personally, I think I've committed the ultimate sin of pride. And what I mean by pride, and by all means, this is not a Bible study conversation, but this is more like just from what I know as someone who does read the word, just someone who does her best to study it. And this is what I understand about pride. Pride immediately takes God away from first place, right? And what does this have to do with burnout? It says that I have so much pride in myself that I can fix everything. I can fix everything. And I've totally displaced God out of first place. And that's a no-go. So one of the things that I've just been mindful of is spending time repenting and really fighting that warfare that's been really going on with burnout, right? So back to thinking that I could do everything, right? And so thinking I could do everything means, oh, well, I'm the oldest daughter. I got this answer. I'm the most successful. I got that answer. I'm good at what I do at my job. I got that answer. And then just constantly staying in that loop over and over again. And I really think that loop really started when my grandmother moved in with me. It just kind of really started. And this was now almost 6 years ago. So trust me, it is not something that can be easily you can't really get over that. But now, as I realize that I'm 6 years in, I realize that there are things that are manifesting as resulting of burnout, a splash of PTSD. And the first thing that I've noticed for myself is isolation, right? I admit that I have been isolating myself, and initially it was because of just trying to recharge and reboot myself. But isolating now means I just totally become a recluse, don't really want to be around people too much, and, just want to, go and bed rot, and that's what we've called it. And we'll talk about just kind of all the buzzwords that are going out, but I promise I will not be here long to bore you. So, so isolation, definitely have done that. And in isolation is that, I haven't really been in a relationship in a while. Let's just say that. And I'm not really a big fan of putting my relationship status out there. But all I'm going to say to that is I'm certainly ready to be in a relationship. Like I said, my relationship status, I do firmly believe that stays completely offline altogether. It's not about keeping secrets. It's about respecting my privacy. But in that is realizing that I am ready for one, right? And so that comes part of combating isolation, right? Second thing that I've noticed that manifested is the joy in my work that I do is gone. It's 100% gone. And what I mean by that is sometimes I get frustrated with colleagues. Sometimes I get frustrated with different things that I used to try to find a workaround to. And I just reached the point where I can't do it anymore. And I'm just frustrated. And I'm upset, and the joy is gone. And mind you, I love what I do. That's another thing I won't 100% disclose, but I absolutely enjoy what I do. I love what I do. I feel that this is my calling. But to some degree, it's now feeling like a chore, and I just don't, it's important that, I climb out of burnout. So this does not feel like a chore. The next thing that, I've noticed is, in terms of the things that have manifested in burnout, is my sleep pattern. My sleep pattern is crazy. And I know that we have so many things we want to coin it with perimenopause, and I am at that age, or I could be, facing perimenopause. And it's not that. I've had blood work done, and my doctor has reassured me that I am not close to menopause. But in the sleep, in the isolation, in the loss of some of the joy in some of my job efforts, and then now, thankfully, one thing that I have been more diligent with doing is exercise. I still love exercising, but just because of fatigue, which is another symptom that manifests itself from burnout, but because of fatigue, I just not had the energy to get up and do it, and days become weeks and weeks became months. All right. And so I had to get myself back in check with that, especially after 40. I made a commitment to myself that really after 40, like, no movement is a non-negotiable. I have to be active every day. I have to lift weights at least 3 times a week. So yeah, inactivity is a non-negotiable for me. Even though I'm thankful that I had a strong foundation, I would work out regularly. I made sure I was at the gym, made sure I was active. And, of course, 20s and 30s, you could kind of go down, bounce back, go down, bounce back. But I said 40s, absolutely not. So, but in all of those things, right? I want to say I really, in talking to God, and really just focused on, knowing that God is a way maker, and realigning myself by putting God first. All right. And I know that sometimes, and I'm going to say this, and this is a real statement, and I know it's going to make some Christians cringe because they feel like it's easy to put God first. Listen, I'm going to tell you some real human stuff. Sometimes when you have been operating and doing stuff on your own for so long, it can be a struggle to say, you could say you put God first, but to actually do it, that is a demon that you're going to have to fight. That is warfare that you're going to have to fight to make sure that God is truly first. I actually was reading and studying Luke. I put some information about the soul method, about how I study the Bible. And in reading Luke, I think it was Luke 5, that chapter highlighted that Jesus prayed. He did not take pride in himself, because he knew that he was all powerful, right? He knew what he had. But even with him knowing what he had and what he was capable for, he still prayed to his Father. He still prayed in everything he did. And in Luke 5, it's basically, just a nutshell, the setup of his disciples, right? And that's just so important that Jesus prayed for everything. Every move that he made, every decision that he made, we got to get out of the practice of making a decision and asking God to bless it. It's out of order. So, but in my time with God, it's realizing that God has a gift for me, and God has a life for me that I need to live. Realizing that I buried so many loved ones in a short period of time, I survived that through God's strength. And knowing that God has pulled me through that in his strength, why am I settling for mediocrity? Why am I settling for these warfares, or this warfare called burnout and PTSD? Why am I not sitting and knowing and being comfortable that God can deliver me out of those things, right? And so some decisions were made in October, and while I can't really talk about it now, I'm excited that, it's time to move forward in those decisions in the later part of the year. So, but in that, it's not only just saying, okay, I made a decision here, right? It's also saying, okay, God, I know I can't be isolated. You call me to love on everybody, right? Everybody. And so me reading God's word means that I shouldn't be really isolating myself, because I need to connect with his children, with his people. And, me being stressed and fatigued, it's all about remembering the gifts that God has placed in me, right? And maybe, asking God to help me with provision, with being able to magnify those gifts, because your gift will definitely make room for you. And so, but also, when we're talking about romantic relationships of any kind, now I'm going to get beat up by a lot of people when I say this, but the church, specifically the Black church, and just kind of the standard of just kind of, I grew up with a single mother, and just kind of growing up under that single mother situation in the Black church, that whole setup did us Black females dirty. Majority of us, not all, majority of us, because, we're essentially taught that we have to date to marry, and, we can't be, wasting our time, and, not realizing that we still need to collect data on this person. Like, just because this person looks great on paper, don't mean that this person is not, that person may not be spiritually well. Okay. Let me say that again. Just because they look good on paper, that does not mean that they're spiritually well. And so, but that's what dating is really all about. Actually, a gentleman said courting. Yeah, courting, right? And so once you make a decision that, you want to, attach yourself to this individual and, build something and court them for however long, right? I used to say, oh, well, I ain't about to be in no relationship. I've been in relationships for 5 years, 3 years with the wrong guy, and I grew tired of it. So me kind of setting up those timelines is from trauma, right? And if a guy wants to court and he wants to date me and he wants to build something and build a relationship, and we take our time with it, it's cool. We enjoy each other's company, enjoy fun things to do, continue to get to know each other, and that's it. You know what I'm saying? I'm open to that. So with this being a series of admitting that, not only am I burned out, but also we have to be careful about owning these things, right? So this is just a series of just really climbing out of burnout, right? But not only burnout, but the PTSDs, the anxiety and depressions. We say these things because we tell ourselves these things because we want to give kind of space and leeway to permit us to continue with, I don't want to say unhealthy behaviors around everybody else, but unhealthy behaviors that set ourselves up, right? And so I'll just use this as an example. So someone who is anxious, right? And they might say, well, I have anxiety really badly, and, I'm always late to everything. And to some degree, we have to really separate ourselves from it because, you can't be late to everything because you're going to start missing everything, especially at a job. You'll lose it. You know what I'm saying? If you constantly are late. So that's what I mean by, yes, they're there. We recognize them, but we have to get to a point to separate ourselves from it, right? And it definitely can, because I believe I read this in Luke. There's absolutely nothing impossible with God, right? Now, I just caution you to use these buzzwords carefully. Buzzwords, not buttwords. buzzwords carefully, because you don't want to own something that, and you don't want to keep that on you, right? If you know the steps to climb out of certain something, or you need professional help with something, or if you need to change your environment, or if you need help with something, then get those things, right? Go ahead and get those things so you can move from here to there. Because I firmly believe that this is what this series is about, moving from here to there. So in short, yes, discovered it's a little bit of burnout. Well, not a little, it's a combination of burnout and PTSD, right? And, just kind of climbing up the droves of depression. But it's saying to myself that in God's strength, I'm going to move from here to there in God's strength. And, God is a provider and he's a way maker. I know that he will enlarge my coast or enlarge my territory, like in 1 Chronicles 4, with the prayer of Jabez. I know that, his word talks about not fearing all up and down the Bible, cover to cover. I know his word talks about be still and know that God is God. And my pride needs to take a back seat because God is God. I know what I'm capable of because God has given me the strength to be able to, progress forward. And that's the other part, looking behind, there's nothing for me behind, but I need to look ahead. And God has given me so many opportunities to look ahead towards. So I need to focus my gaze ahead. So follow along for this series. I really hope you enjoy it. And yeah, you guys have a fantastic evening. Yeah, it feels really late or really early. I don't know. Daylight savings time kind of messed me up a little bit. So you guys have a good one.